In terms of wine production, this is a chart. It doesn't show up great here, but each circle represents the percentage of French wine production that happens in the different areas. Alsace is represented by this area. It's one of the major producing areas. It's one of the smaller areas. It's a little smaller than Burgundy and about the size of Provence is how much wine Alsace produces. And again, this area right here is Alsace. A little bit of history. It was settled in 1500 BC by the Celts. It has been conquered and lost several times, ping-ponging between France and Germany. More recently, in 1871, it became part of Germany after the Franco-Prussian War. It was returned to France after World War I. It was occupied by Germany and considered German during World War II. Even though it was still technically a part of France, they drafted young men in the area to serve in the German army. And it was returned to 100% part of France after World War II. Its citizens consider themselves to be more organized and a bit more in a hurry than the rest of France. They don't do the 3-hour lunch break as much as other parts of France do. And then they feel they work harder than the rest of France.
It's because of the German influence, probably, huh?
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of influence here in a minute. It's in the middle between the Vosges and the Black Forest Mountains. This is the Rhine River, and it forms the border between Germany and France. And on this side of the river is where the Alsace wine comes from, and from there you can see well into Germany, and there's a lot of German influence in the area. Here's just some street scenes from Alsace. It's some of the typical architecture. You wouldn't know whether you're in Germany and France looking at it. There's a street scene there. There's a cheese shop.
Yeah, Gasper, what town is this?
That's a really good question. I meant to look that up. I don't have great retention. Greg, do you remember? It's a town Hugo was in.
Okay.
Rick Weir.
It was an
R-I-Q-U-E Weir. H-E.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, it's Rick Weir is where Hugo is, in fact.
Yeah.
Gasper said.
But back then the people were illiterate. Back in the old days, a lot of the people were illiterate, so they had to hang signs up to tell you what business was in a particular building. This right here signified that it was obviously a winemaker. I don't know if you can, I think you can see it. You'll notice these shutters have little hearts on them. That signifies that there's an available single woman living in that particular building. As I walked by, I saw this beautiful young woman's head pop out and look longing at me, but then she saw Laura and knew she didn't have a chance and she went back in. No, but it's kind of interesting. What I thought was really interesting in this town is they had a Stetson hat shop with an American eagle there. I found that interesting to find that in France. But they're everywhere. Another interesting thing, and I think this was in Comar, if you walk through the streets, you'll see all of these stork nests on top of buildings. They're everywhere. And there's a couple of storks in their nest right there. And that explained it, because we saw these little babies in diapers all over the city, and that explains it, because the storks were up there. No, they take a lot of pride in it. All the little toy stores sell little toy storks to bring home and stuff like that. It's sort of the symbol of the city. Okay, getting back to wine, climate and grape growing. It's got a cool to moderate climate. The Vosges Mountains to the west limit the amount of rain and clouds, so it doesn't get a lot of rain. Sunny summers and dry autumns resulting in grapes with high levels of sugar. So because they have higher levels of sugar, you're going to find that these wines have a little more alcohol than you get from other parts of the world. Best vineyards are located on the slopes with southern and eastern exposures. The lesser vineyards are located on the flatlands, and that's usually made for Cremant d'Alsace, which is sparkling wines. Different soil types lived at different wine styles. Many growers own several little small plots in different areas. So you'll get very few single vineyard wines from Alsace because they have to combine vineyards that are located all over the area. Because of there's different conditions in different vineyards, it takes a couple months to finish harvest because some grapes are ready before some other grapes. So it takes a while to harvest grapes in Alsace. The most important grapes are in the area, they call them the noble varieties, which are Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris, and Muscat. But they also grow a lot of Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir, and Sylvaner. I had my first Alsatian Pinot Noir when I was there. It's light, fruity, easy drinking, a great wine with meals. They also grow some Chardonnay, but they can only put it in their sparkling wine, the Cremant. And there's just a couple of scenes, walking through the vineyards. The vineyards go right up to the end of town. It's an absolutely beautiful area. In terms of winemaking, it's mostly single varietals. You won't get a lot of blends from Alsace. And then unlike the rest of France, when you look at the bottles, they'll actually put the name of the grape on the bottle. If you get a Côte d'Aron, you're getting the name of the region. But if you get a wine from Alsace, it's going to say Riesling. It's going to say, with a few exceptions, it's going to say Riesling. It's going to say Pinot Blanc. It's going to say Pinot Gris. It's going to say Gewürztraminer. So you know what grape you're getting. They use very large oak barrels or steel tanks to ferment and age their wine, so it doesn't take away from their fruit. Their big winemaking philosophy is they want the purity of the fruit. They don't want the barrel, the yeast, or they don't want to introduce anything that takes away from the flavor, the taste of the fruit. So it's all about fruit there. So they don't use malolactic fermentation or anything else. But they do have blends. If you look at a bottle of wine from Alsace and it says Elderswicker, it means it's less, it's a blend, but it has less than 50% of the noble varieties. If it says Gentile, it has 50% or more of the noble grapes. I haven't seen a lot of those. Hugo makes one that they sell at Total Wine. It's about $13 or $14. They sell a Gentile, which is a really nice wine. I enjoy it quite a bit. And there's some of the old barrels, and there's some people tasting. So it's another typical tasting that we did in Alsace.
So where was this at? Do you know where this was at?
It was on 847 Elm Street, and it was called not Blanc. It was called it was called Blanc, I think. It's a very small producer. You can get it in the United States. Great wines.
Do they make a Grand Cru in this place?
I think they do.
Probably, Rich, because time there's about 60 Grand Crus in Alsace.
Yeah.
They took it.
New in Burgundy and Champagne.
They have different wine classifications. Rich just mentioned Grand Cru. It's if you're a Grand Cru, you're made from grapes from one of 50 vineyards given the Grand Cru designation. It cannot be a blend. It must be made of one of the 4 noble varieties, which we talked about earlier. It says Alsace Grand Cru. Most of the wines are labeled Alsace. It's used for the majority of the wines. Almost all of it is 100% of the grape varietal on the label. They also make dessert wines. If you see something called a Vendange Tardive, a VT wine, it's a late harvest wine made from noble grapes, as you all know, or most of you know. Late harvest wines, they let them get riper and riper and almost rotten. So there's a lot more sugar in them. And when they squeeze the juice, it's a lot sweeter. So it's great for dessert wines. And then there's Selection de Grands Nobles. These are noble varieties that have exhibited noble rot, like they do in sauternes and that sort of thing, where there's the fungus that grows and pierces the grape and drains out some of the water, which adds to more sweetness.
Did you get a chance to taste the dessert wines?
We did not have any of the dessert wines while we were there. We had a couple of Cremants, but we did not have a chance to taste any of those. There's some, no matter what varietal you get, at least I feel there's some characteristics that are common to most Alsace wines. You get intense aromas. They have abundant floral. I called it petrol there, and they slapped me and said, no, it's floral, not petrol. Petrol is a common term to describe Alsatian wines, but they prefer to use floral there. Fruit aromas and flavors. You'll get balanced acidity and high alcohol. Acidity is balanced by the fruit, and because, as we mentioned earlier, it gets more sunlight and the grapes get riper, generally you'll see more alcohol in wines from Alsace than you'll see in that varietal when it's grown in other regions. And there's sort of an oily texture to it. It's got a different viscosity when you taste it. It makes the wine feel fuller bodied than the wines from other areas. And one of the reasons for that is the alcohol. Alcohol weighs more than water. So if you compare two of the same varietals from different areas, the one with higher alcohol will feel like it's got a little more body to it.